Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today I'm down in the sanctuary recording. You can see my lights are blue in the background, which usually means it's raining outside. We've got a If This Then That hooks to the National Weather Service. It's pretty cool, and they interact with our smart lights. I don't know if I've ever told any of you that before. I'm also wearing a MSU vintage Startup Weekend t-shirt from when I used to participate in Startup Weekends a lot, which feeds into my next guest, who is working at the MSU Outreach. But we'll talk about that as we get on. And don't forget to look at 517living.com if you want to see who's coming on the show this week and next week. We do 7 days out, so check that out. So now, our good friend, our great friend, Mr. John Melcher. How you doing today?
Hi, Jerry. Yeah, glad to be here.
So have you been soaked today?
Today, yesterday, day before. I'm seeing mushrooms that I didn't even know we had here.
I did a whole TikTok video on the mushrooms of the Fledge because we got a million of them around, just pop up everywhere.
Yeah. You don't want them growing up near the ceiling. That's all I know.
Is that true? Oh, no, shoot.
I'm just kidding.
We get these, what do you call it, mulch from different tree cutters, and they are just filled with spores. So we get all kinds of mushrooms around here. And I wish I knew something about them, because I'd love to, some are edible, but you make that mistake and they can be deadly. So
don't want to do that.
No, not at all. So let's jump into you. Where were you born and raised and went to school?
I was born Harper Hospital, Detroit, Michigan, 1949, and my parents lived out in Birmingham. They had been a family in Detroit. My mother and father born there, raised there, home after the war, GI Bill, headed out Woodward Avenue. I went to school there, high school, ended up coming to Michigan State University in 1968, and as an undergraduate student, and been here ever since, really. But I've been here ever since.
I had a ton of friends that went to Birmingham Brother Rice. That must be like a Catholic school or something there.
Catholic school, yep.
Yeah, a bunch of wrestlers. Really good wrestling team, actually.
Yes. Very good, very good. Yep.
So what'd you study at MSU?
Well, social science. I ended up in actually urban planning, bachelor's degree in urban planning, and surprised myself sort of with that in as much as that was a. I remember when I think it was in 10th grade, high school, went into the counselor's office, and they had all these little brochures on the table while you were waiting, and all these different professions, and you're looking at them and what you could be or whatnot. And so you had to pick one or something to go in and talk to them about. And so I ended up with city planner, I think it was, or something like that, and not knowing what it was. And when I first came to Michigan State University, that wasn't really my intention. It was I just came into the social science program, but ended up then getting my degree in urban planning, of all things. And so I ended up right back where I somehow had an inclination towards way early on. But and then I went on, got a master's degree, and I've been around and working at the center.
So MSU has a certificate you can earn for urban planning, I think now.
There's a planning curriculum that's actually part of the extension program, Citizen Planner, and absolutely you get training because it's there's a lot going on, and we got a lot of opportunity, but for citizen participation. But there's a lot of laws and processes that have to be understood, and so there's good opportunity to be trained and help build our citizen base to be able to participate in decisions that are making these huge differences in our communities.
Yeah. Without trying to get into the politics of something like defund the police, that's easy to say. And even if people wanted to, there's a lot of bureaucracy around that, right? I mean, you've got contracts with unions, you've got regulations or laws that require certain things. Any comment on that? And I'm not trying to get a...
No, I'll say that what? First off, city management is complex. And you see the legacy of the unionized labor. It's also not only a past, but a present, right? And that is part of the city management. It has to be considered on all sorts of levels, no matter what you're talking about. So that is certainly a complexity. So that's one thing. But to speak to defunding the police, I want to step back and just speak to policing in general, and just to say, and this is my personal opinion, that law enforcement is a really important function in our communities, and something that we collectively need to do together. Public safety is really important to our communities, and it's something we should all do collectively.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the same people, the same systems. They got to work together, but we've got to think them out. We're at a point in time when should our law enforcement people be pulling us over for broken taillight?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Right.
Probably not. Does taillight enforcement need to happen? Probably.
Yeah.
So we got to think it out and do it in the right level. And we have times and needs for procedures that require what we've seen, I think, to become a little too common in enforcement in communities around our laws. That has its place and it has its purpose, but it has to be at those right times and places. Discretion is crucial, and you don't need those people working on a taillight. That's all I'm saying. It's just right. There's certain things that are really, appropriate. We have to stage ourselves and have our appropriate responses for appropriate conditions, and that's back to this management. That is good community management. Public safety and law enforcement. Public safety today it's such a broad, way more broad now. We have all sorts of issues that that have to be considered within there that we can do a whole lot better at. And clearly, the most obvious is what we see, I think, in where we see where mental health issues interface with all sorts of levels of our society and our communities that cause disruptions, and it's how we kind of ability to resolve those. For instance, we got to get better at. We're not doing such a good job. Again, do we want to send the same people we do the tail light to do that? I don't know.
Yeah,
probably not. If we really were to think it out and try to manage our communities as best we can, and then we got to get into our legacy agreements if we're going to change agreements about how people work. Are the firefighters and emergencies, people who provide us more of the emergency services in car crashes or health kinds of issues, having now all these different kind of sensors and more sophisticated health delivery that can happen almost instantaneously. I mean, are we going to redefine how we deliver that kind of safety and health in our communities? Yes, we are. It's not going to be the same old way. And so all of this is up, and will that come back into our city managements and our structures and our legacy agreement? Yes, it's very complicated, and I didn't get it any easier.
Yeah. Do you, when you were talking about that and you said we all have to, do you look at that like us as citizens need to evolve in our role as well? Like, should we take some ownership for this? And do you have any advice?
The only reason The only reason that we're here where we are today is because people have done something about it. You know, the legacy of this country, the dope fill. There's a story about, just about, Americans are so damn independent, but it only takes like 2 or 3 of them to kind of get together and they start making stuff happen, make stuff
Yeah.
happen. And so it's the only way. It's really what we do. So when I say we can engage on all sorts of levels in many, many different ways, and they're all really important. Now the question is some, there's always structures of power, and I use a concept of incumbency. And it's, sort of people in spaces of decision making or feeling a ownership or some kind of proprietary position over who knows what it is. And when you're trying to do new and innovative things, you're always up against that, and it's always rubbing. But in there lies this great, friction that really is the energy that helps to fire it all up and mix it together. And so the we is all of us, yes, coming together in many different ways, not all together at one time. My God, I wouldn't want to manage that, but we do well in smaller groups, and that's what networks are about, right? So always has been, always will be. It's how you communicate within those networks. The network we're on right now, your network of people who are tuning in to see what what you dragged in today to talk to, and I think those are just great. I mean, I really I think those networks are the things that fire up and really make things happen, not only here but globally.
Yeah. Is this your nickname here, Tony Willis from Leap or from Deep? Is
It is
the Melcher?
Yeah, it is with Tony. Hi, Tony.
Only Tony, or can I call you that now?
I get it from a few others too.
All right.
People they like to pick a name for me, and
yeah,
that's a good one. Tony, appreciate that, Tony.
I want to talk about.
By the way, I think a lot of him.
Me too. I think that what he's doing at Leap, or the evolution into Deep, is super important. Tony's, I bounce a lot of things off from you in the past. I bounce a lot of things off from Tony. And one thing, it actually leads into the MSU outreach for community and economic development. And I think Tony is one of the, not few people, but definitely understands when I get frustrated when we think economic development is community development. And I always say we've got our community that has an economy within it. So it's community development first, and then the economic development part of it should come after. But sometimes we flip that, and we're too focused on economic development without community development, and that leads to gentrification. It leads to all kinds of things, I guess. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, all sorts of thoughts. I mean, this is what I have, career, but it's not a career. It's just how I think. It's how I've been since, becoming aware back in those 1960s when I went to college here. And that was some really interesting years, 1968 to 72 at MSU. We can get into that, a whole show by itself.
You got Detroit riots and civil rights. You got Vietnam. You got all that.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. You do. Well, I forgot where I was going with that.
I interrupted you. I'll be more quiet this time.
No, but what was that question?
Well, my question was really about the difference between community development and economic development and the blend.
Yeah, let me just say this, is that, hand in glove concept. For years, the kind of work that we would call economic development, because it was more grassroots, community empowered, cooperative ownership kinds of things and models, that wasn't seen as economic development. Economic development was basically defined by one of the primary strategies, which is basically it's bringing it's smokestack chasing. It's attraction. It's attracting businesses to your community, as opposed to other strategies that would emphasize perhaps growing, more local industries. So attraction has been the most dominant model of economic development. And yet what we see and what we really know that communities, and it's really clear here, that have to have these local sustainable economies. That's really probably what is the really fundamental, I think, piece. And community is at the heart of it. And it's because, well, they're hand in glove. They're the same thing. It's relationships. I mentioned this earlier. It's relationships, and it's relationships that have transactions. And the transactions can happen on all sorts of levels, and all sorts of ways. But that is what community is, and that's what economy is. It's very transactional, and it's all about relationships. And it's all about then who you're connected to and how you connect to them. And there's value in those relationships that show up in those transactions.
Yeah.
Now that value doesn't have to be about money. And this is what's really important. When we talk about economy, we are oftentimes translating it into this money space prematurely, if maybe totally inappropriately, because the key is in the value. And the key is in the value exchange. And if I have something of value and you have something of value, but I have something of value that you think is valuable, and you have something that's valuable to me, we exchange.
Right.
And that's really what we're doing right now. That's why I'm here. That's why you invited me.
Yes.
And this is the transaction of community. This has value. This is what it's all about. This is where it builds from. If I come in, you're going to give me actually money, aren't you?
For being on the show. I'm going to give you a Fledge coin if you want it.
See?
Yeah.
See?
And it's,
now, So here I am. I'm just saying, well, I'm doing this community, and all of a sudden now I'm going to have a coin, a currency of the Fledge that has value for me to go do something with again.
Right.
That's economy. That's economics.
Right. And see, I think, I don't know how long ago you taught me that, well, first of all, I've been saying forever, it's an economy of relationships. You can say it's an economy of information or an economy of capital or an economy of labor, but the base one has always been the economy of relationships. And that you called it social capital, I think, or in some contexts you do.
Yes.
And that really made me understand that I needed a better way to track that value exchange, because I might not have something that you value, but I can give you a credit for it, and you can find someone else around here who does have something that you value. And so it's just a super complicated bartering system now. And when you get to numbers like 200 people using the coin, it's amazing how many relationships there are. Actually, 200 factorial is the number of relationships, which is a humongous number.
All based on value.
Yes. Yeah.
One to another.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. It's Tony said you are a wealth of knowledge and always a great person to bounce off the ideas with. Probably the first person I met who illustrated interconnectivity of it all. So I think, do you consider yourself a systems thinker?
Yes.
Would you primarily describe yourself as that, maybe?
Sure.
Is it a weak? Do you find it a weakness that more people are not?
No, I found it to be really difficult growing up and going through the education system. Really difficult. Really difficult. Because if you see the interrelationship between things in the systems, and that's where you have to be to understand systems. It's very highly relational, and the ability to associate things and do that, it leads to complexities of things that will force you to have to find tenets, principles, laws, things that help to give it organization and meaning, so you can translate it into something you can take action with, right? And it's that process that is well, first of all, that's the community development process, Jerry, and that's all part of what we do in this community and economic development world. And so the complexity of understanding these systems, though, causes some trouble when you start to get down into detail of any one subject matter, or as we, manufacturing industrial, back to that smokestack chasing, our K-12 system is built on batching our students into a system that, by virtue of their birth date, they, by third grade, should know this. By this grade, in this batch, they should be here, no matter who they are as individuals. I use as an example to accentuate this absurdity of this is two women conceive at the same time. One has a premature baby. Let's say it's in August. The other one goes full term later in the fall. Those two kids start to go to kindergarten. Who goes to kindergarten first?
The one who was born prematurely.
And the other one got a whole year wait. You go, what? And then by virtue of that kid by third grade better hit some performance standards, because that's the system. It's not individual, it's all batch. If you're a systems thinking and generalist and looking for these highly associated relationships that cause complexity, it's hard to answer the right question on the test. Is all I can tell you. It's really hard, because that right answer is a little bit more right than maybe another answer, but not what they were looking for in the batch. So it's hard to be an individual, to be association. Like, you need to be creative in this time and space when you're getting funneled through these systems that train us into ways of thinking and behaving that aren't relevant to where we are today. 57, no, not even 50, but 70, 80, 90 years ago, yes, but not today.
Yeah. I always feel like we want to attract this industry. We tell our school district to make a bunch of workers for that industry. And then we've got a bunch of people that are doing something for a living that they weren't really born and passionate to do. We got to put the play back in school, in my opinion. And when you gave me this example a few weeks ago about the third grade and the conceived at the same time, it blew my mind that, how backwards that is. So
nuts. Yeah.
And
especially in a time when this knowledge economy, and I learned this in doing research and just kind of exploring all of this, trying to as it was unfolding in front of our eyes over the last 20 years. But it's how you think in terms of relational thinking. I mentioned this before. Relational thinking, translational skills. And this doesn't make any difference what you do in life or, going forward. But it's your ability to have critically think, to be able to see relationships between things that allow you to solve some problems, apply things to circumstances that you don't know the answer to, but you're willing to try to figure out because you're willing and you're looking for these associations, and you're collecting that data in your head and making decisions all the time. And then you have skills to translate that. All right. Once you can think in these ways and start to see the relationships, what do you do with it? And those skills are across the boards. If you're working on an automobile or building a house, you better damn well know how to do this associated learning thing, because the materials, the techniques, the circumstances of what we're doing are changing all the time. And you've got to be able to problem solve, figure these things out, and apply new things constantly. It's just the way that it is. If you're working on, any of our software technology businesses, you are doing the same thing. You are looking at highly associated kinds of thinking. You might have computational skills that allow you to now to turn your insights, your thinking, your ability to see and understand things. You can create them into and start to transform them using coding, being able to perhaps statistically start to look and describe things. That's what calculus is. That's what all these, kinds of computational skills. But words and writing and verbal. Back in the 90s, the .com, when all those businesses were starting to form, and I'm thinking, oh, those poor liberal arts kids, my God, what are they going to do? Everybody, you better learn coding. You better know how to, do some, work with your computers and all that, or you're, going to be dead eggs. And well, 10 years, 15 years later, well, the internet's just busting away, and guess who has a really highly needed skill, but liberal arts students who have this highly associated critical thinking skills and these verbal and writing skills, and they just hit the internet fun. And there's plenty of opportunity. And it wasn't coding, but people who can code and do that can do fine as well, right?
Yeah.
But you never know, and that actually speaks to many things about the future. But it's the diversity of knowledge and skills are crucial. And back to that sort of systems thinking, going through these educational systems, having translational skills. Everybody who is successful will be able to highly associate and have skills that they translate that to others.
Yeah, I worry. I graduated from University of Michigan. I have a degree from the literature, science, and arts, and it's a math degree. It's a statistics degree, but I took pretty much enough credits to have had a philosophy degree, enough credits to have a psychology degree, and I felt so lucky to have this well-rounded. I was reading literature and writing code. And then I look at my daughter who just graduated from college. I won't name she just graduated from MSU with a degree in genetics, and it was very focused and not so much literature and philosophy. And I wonder, is that a trend that's happened that I sort of missed?
No, it hasn't. Really, you get narrower into things. She's an individual, Jerry. She's gonna.
Oh, she made those choices.
Well, but she's your kid too, and there's plenty of time to learn all that stuff too.
Yeah.
In other words, you're never off the path. These degrees are nothing but a beginning point, right?
Yeah.
Nothing, yeah. And you don't even need it necessarily. There's lots of reasons why, and I'm not going to say don't do it for sure. However, I'm just telling you that. If you think that it's sufficient to go forward in life, forget about it. It is not nearly sufficient. And no matter what you learn today, it's going to be different tomorrow. And so learning how to learn.
Yeah, super important.
That's a skill. And then doing these associated learning. Genetics. She's going to have to know. Depending where you go with genetics, come on. This is getting down to the whole core of the human, who we are. This is as deep as it gets in terms of being and what we think of ourselves and what we want to do with it and how oh my God, this is the depth of where her trajectory is going is.
Yeah. We're trying to be really careful of our first job and make sure, try to help her pick the right one. And, does she want to work with mice or humans? And, exactly in that first. And I know from chaos theory, just a very small initial condition tweak can put you on the other side of the waterfall than the guy that's standing next to you, right?
Absolutely.
So, what would you say your mission is? Like, do you love Lansing and you're just here to make sure that we do better and all of that, or
I'm as surprised that I'm here probably as anyone, because it wasn't where I was born, but I really enjoyed it. And I've known a lot of people that I've teased about being here, either in Lansing or East Lansing in particular, though, was that they always had a suitcase sort of packed in the closet ready to go. They were just here for a while. And they ended up being here for decades. And there's a lot of people like that in this town. And my mission, no, I was able to, the place I work and the ability to do what is so important to me in who I am as a person, and be working with people who have similar interests and bring out the best in me. I value that, and that's why I've been where I have been. I raised my family here, and it couldn't have been better. I just couldn't. The life living here, I think, is of a high quality, easy living, and by and large, and I find it to fit my personality of sorts. But here's the issue: I love water, and I'm a sailor. And I started when I was like 12 years old, and I really like the Great Lakes. I brand myself as a Great Lakes kid, as a matter of fact, Jerry, because I grew up here. But here I am and lived most of my life, fairly my whole adult life, in Lansing, Michigan, where I'm probably, I already know this, further from a Great Lake as you can be and still be in the state of Michigan. Yeah. And there's like two spots maybe that I can see it, but this is one of them. And so, on the other hand, I'm 2 hours from 3 different Great Lakes, and that's pretty special too. And there's a few spots in the state that are like that as well. But I really do love it. I find it. I wish I did have a little bit more water available to me to be able to do what I do that way. But otherwise, I find it here. And that, here's the thing about also careers. You kind of mentioned it earlier. Most people I ask and I talk to about how they end up where they were and doing what they're doing, it's usually some kind of circumstance, a serendipity, more of a chance kind of a thing that took them in a direction, an opportunity for a job that they had no intention really of ever really going. And that I talk to a lot of students at the university, and they go, well, I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I go, don't worry about it, because most things happen by this happenstance. Really, it does. And the important thing is to be out and be involved, because opportunity, you don't know when an opportunity is going to present itself, and you want to be good at recognizing opportunity, but you want to be prepared to be able to take advantage of it as well. And your best bet, though, of this is what I tell people. I say you just got to get out and get involved with things, because opportunity has a hard time finding you if you're downstairs in a basement, Yeah. And by being out involved, you do connect, and it's always about relationships, right? And those are where your opportunities end up. Yeah. Coming from driving directions and all the rest. I'm working with Rex Lamore, and Rex and I were in grad school together, and that's why I got to meet him and first work with him. And as a matter of fact, he taught a class. He was fortunate enough to talk as one of his faculty members into teaching a class, and I took it. And it was on community development. But here we are, have had an incredible work career together. How would that have ever happened?
Yeah, that's amazing. You guys have been together for that long. I don't know. That sounds strange or something, but
It is.
you guys have worked together for a long time. Anybody that knows you knows him, and anyone that knows him knows you.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting, isn't it?
yeah, I wrestled for Lansing Eastern, which is just a few blocks here. You know where it is because your office is on Michigan Avenue and all that. And we had a sign in our wrestling room that said, "Luck is when opportunity meets preparation." And I like that phrase. You know, there's a white privilege twist to that too, you know, or pull yourself up by the bootstraps type of twist. I hate both of white privilege and those two things. Don't hate them, but want to battle that, I guess. And it's just, I say that all the time, is that it feels godlike, it feels magical, it's serendipitous, but it's keeping your mind open to all these different diverse people. And once the numbers get up there, you know, 1,000 factorial is billions, maybe trillions of potential relationships. Eventually, you're going to get that serendipity happening. And if you do that as an individual, get out there.
Yeah, but you bring up a really excellent point here, and not to be overlooked. And that's that you know, if it's a dance floor, you know, and we have to get out there and dance, we don't all have the same dance floor.
Right.
It's not all the same dance.
Yeah.
And that opportunity looks different and is different.
See, I don't like that phrase that rising tides lift all boats, because not everybody has a boat. And yeah, drowns some people.
That's exactly what it does.
What would you, you know, I want to be sensitive to time, because I told you earlier we're going to go for 3 or 4 hours if we let this roll. What's your mission, either personally or the community and economic development outreach? Are they the same, or do you have a personal mission?
Well, they fit real well together. I mean, I'm a real broken record and have been pretty consistent about this. You come and talk to me anytime, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to walk away thinking that, you know, there's only a couple things that are important in life, and that is family, friends, and generally, for a lot of people, faith. For me, I'm sort of unaffiliated that way. But the first two are really significant in it, and it's all back to that, you know, small network. And you think about all the billions of people we have in the world, and when it comes down to you, Jerry, or me, we only need a couple of people. And if we don't have those couple of people, our life is hell. And it doesn't take many to make us start to really be and feel who we are as a person and belonging. And those are the relationships, starting with individuals, family, and friends. But that's what community is. And that's where my work intersects with my personal. Because it's all about those relationships. And it's helping people find and work for their own aspirations and relationships. And that I tend to find to be, if I have a life's work, it's to do that. To not only do it for myself, first off, but to be part of helping to create the circumstances and opportunities for others. Because that is the human experience. That's the life dance.
Yeah. I see people suffering from substance use. You know, they're either high or they're dancing in the street with their pants down or whatever. And I just think, you know, they need a friend. They need their family to accept them back or whatever. And it's so difficult sometimes. But we always say connection is the opposite of addiction. And once you have, you know, those 3, 4, 5 people, we have another person that's a social entrepreneur, Erica Munchback with Jubilee, says, you know, you mimic the 5 people that you're around the most. And having those important people around you That's why I started the Fledge. You know, I went through some.
I'm not gonna say, look
yeah.
around you, Jerry. Turn around. It's all around you.
Yeah. What do you do every damn day to push that mission forward?
I don't know. I'm pretty lucky that my character of being is such that it gets me out generally and being some social and connected somewhere, and that seems to do it for me. I'm pretty modest that way. I though have things that I have aspirations, I have frustrations. You know, I mean, I love to be a musician. I mean,
Yeah.
I play music, but I really want to be a musician.
I'm
And I'm not sure I'll ever be. But
uh,
I have aspirations to be, and I keep trying for it. But that's those kinds of things in life that drive you. Try to get you keep going to where somewhere that you're not.
we got open mic Friday night. We're coming back.
All right.
Come on down.
Well, now you're gonna have to not only have to be a musician, but now I have to sing.
No, you don't have to. There's someone else that you can meet up with. We got a whole stage full of instruments here.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it. I love it. I love the concept there. I'll make it done. I want to make it done.
I know you will. We daisy chain these shows together, and yesterday my guest was running late. We weren't sure we were going to be able to do it, and I was teaching a class about plants to a few kids. So I got a couple of the kids on the show, and we just talked about plant class. So I skipped the kind of adult questions and stuff like that just to let them have 15 minutes telling everyone what they learned. But the show before was Dr. Aziza Knight. She's a chiropractor, but she does more of a holistic healing. And so she runs AK Healing Arts out of Detroit. And her question for you, what's an event, kind of I guess you would say a challenge or a trial that you've had that you're really grateful for, and you might not have been enjoying it, or you might not have thought, what's something like that?
Oh God, I just had it. I mean, I had opportunity to see some friends of mine play music live on Saturday, and there was some music that I really wanted to play, and I wasn't able to play, and it was really distressing me. I said, oh, God, I really wanted to had this passion kind of thing really hard, and it just had a real visceral effect on me. I go, and so I don't know what to say. I was a challenge to be able to have a kind of a recognition that you really love it, but you're just not good enough yet. And I think that people that have these things in their lives, that you get something you try to strive for, maybe trying to accomplish. I have a lot of satisfaction in my life, a lot of things I do very well, and I do very easily, and I appreciate it very much. But it's those things that I try that I can't quite reach, that cause me the great most amount of, I guess, distress and problem in that regard, personally, like that. But otherwise, I'm very satisfied. I think pretty much as an individual, as most people are. We all have our moments. Come on, and I'm not different than anyone else. But I got family and friends.
Yeah, that's a big one. So tomorrow on the show, I've got Terry, excuse me, Terry Pratt, and he has an organization, 10 Reps to Freedom. And I've never met Terry before. I don't really know what they do. I love going into a show raw like that, so I can just meet them. What question would you like me to pass to Terry?
Boy, we talked about this earlier, and I couldn't, I wasn't, I'm not sure now, Terry.
Well, I can remind you what we talked about.
Yeah,
Uh, do you want me to?
yeah.
Who's someone in their past who is a very significant to them, and why, and kind of what's around that?
Yeah, and
So,
and so um, I I think I'd like to put a little more detail to that.
okay.
In that somebody that maybe touches into that individual's life, um, and help them with something that was one of, as a small child or young adult, was one of their most distressing moments of their experiences that they remember. And how did it get resolved? And who was it that helped them, if it was a person or whatever, and how did it get resolved?
Yeah.
And I'm again back to just the very nature of what I think is important, is that the people that we depend on in the community that we depend
Yeah.
on to be able to be the people and live the life we live.
I'm not getting any traction with this, but I'm trying to get the phrase "Lansing raised me" going, because there were so many mentors and coaches and teachers and my parents and just everybody in the community raised me. I mean, if I got out of line, I got smacked in the head by strangers. And, that sounds violent and all of that, but it was just the way it was. And
Jerry, in my work I worked in neighborhoods here in Lansing, in the 70s and 80s and things, and there was a lament because the neighborhoods they were just coming off a time when the neighborhoods were, people were more connected to one another, and there was a lament, and I refer to it as a lament, and I heard it all the time whenever I worked in communities, and it went something like this: it's saying, when I was a kid, if I did something wrong before I got home, and it was an aunt or a neighbor or somebody intervened, and either that child had already had some kind of correction, or the information had already been passed on to the family. And they refer to it as a time, as a lament about when and how people were connected to one another and cared about one another in communities. And I think what happened, particularly in the 80s, and the drugs in the neighborhoods, and we saw this, I saw that the people in our communities started to become the people that looked from behind the blinds to see what was going on at the end of the driveway, to call somebody else to come take care of it.
yeah,
And that was unfortunate, and a lot of reasons for that, a lot of good reasons for it. But it's something for us to be aware of, to say we're going to want to try to get back. And that's what I heard in that lament. And I think what you were just saying about Lansing Raised is absolutely right. And that's that village, I guess. I
yeah,
mean, it sounds kind of trite, but that's all we just talked about, I guess. Ah!
yeah. So
There
shout
it
out
is.
to Clarissa too. So, another friend of yours, James
Ah,
Bignall.
hey, Jim Brigg. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Love his art.
Yeah, I do too. One of his his big painting, fell down a little
Ah,
bit today, so he's on his way here. If he's
well,
not
I remember
here,
I mentioned water in the Great Lakes, and
uh-huh.
he captures it. He does it for
Yeah.
me on his paintings.
See there, you could just play your guitar and stare at that painting, and you could have the best of both worlds. You don't need to move away somewhere.
I'm not going to move.
Um, Pat Linderman, the drain commissioner,
Ah, okay.
he's kind of a history buff of Lansing, and he tells the story of the 50s and 60s. We went from the architecture of big porches in the neighborhood to small porches and fences in the backyard. And instead of your neighbors coming and interacting with you, it became the people who you worked with. It became only your family, and we lost that waving at people from the porch, which has been so very effective for the pledge. I mean, that simple thing is probably the most significant thing we've ever done.
Yeah, I love a porch. I think
Yeah.
he's absolutely right about that, and I love houses with porches.
Yeah.
And
But then you bring the crack epidemic into it, or things like that that brought a lot of violence with it. You see why people peek through their blinds and all of that. But we got to get back out there.
That's right. And you are. I mean, when I was there the other day, and the boys coming down with the lawnmowers, you know, and looking for jobs, and you're supporting them, and they're supporting you, and yeah, that's what it's about right there. You know?
I might even have gave one a little cuff upside his head a little bit for. No, I can't do that these days. But
but that's what it's about, you know, and engagement like that, and it is. You're doing it. I love it. I think the Fledge is just a wonderful place. Can't wait to be back.
What I like about the Fledge is I get to be around my friends and family that you're talking about, and all of the work that we do is so much fun. I mean, there's a lot of trauma and all of that, but that's satisfying to work through. There's a lot of heartache, but you can't feel that happiness until I'm leading right into the next question. But without that heartache, you don't really know what it's like to not have heartache.
There you go.
And so, yeah, it all fits well together. I'm super lucky.
Yeah.
Happiness, sadness, joy, or hope. What would you like to talk about?
Well, they're all important. I know you put those to me before, and I was thinking about that, and happy and sad are sort of two ends of the same stick.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think of them as one, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
There, and you can't be happy without sad, and happy you are, sadder you can be, and that's part of the way that it is on that teeter-totter ride, and I appreciate that because that is, again, we all do that. We're all in that life. I think that hope is a really good one.
Have you ever? Do you think a person can get to a point where they really do have zero hope?
Yeah.
I keep examining that. Hope's a popular choice. So is happiness. Sadness is nobody wants to talk about sadness, but it's always a great conversation. I think about this phrase I heard, that hope is the last to die. And I think it's a Russian phrase. And I think about that every single day. I think about that as, how can I help breed more help or hope, or share more hope? How does hope get created? How does it exist? How can it be taken away? How can I even lift your head without hope? These are
that serious. There are people in our communities that they don't see that hope, and it's really sad. It's destructive. It can be terribly destructive, and that's on us all to think seriously about that idea of hope, and hope for everybody, because it may be the second last thing to die.
Exactly.
And there's one thing that kindness does, no matter what, and it's related to hope. And that's something we can't manufacture for anybody, or hope, or not. But we can do some kindness. And I think that's how you make hope.
I've been asking everybody, when they see a younger person, especially the ones in these age ranges that are getting shot right now, from the 17 to the 27, well, 14 recently at Rotary Park, or the shooters themselves are in that 17 to 27. We could all use to smile a little bit more, say hello a little bit more, not act like we're scared of these young men. In a lot of cases, these young boys, I know we try to stay away from that word too much, but it's desensitized us to some people. I want to embrace and hug and love all of the shooters. I mean, of course, the mothers and the fathers and the affected people, but we have a lot of broken kids here that are doing this, and we need to show just a smile, because it's infinite and it's contagious, and it doesn't cost a damn thing. Just have to have a little courage, maybe. So.
That's it. That's what I think it works.
All right, we're gonna go for 3 more hours, or you want to wrap it up? We're already at an hour.
Did we get all your? I'm 291. Everybody, I didn't know. Just to let everybody know.
Oh, thanks for I was just about to do that. So
really?
Yeah. So you are episode 291. I promise we won't label you that for the rest of our relationship. Oh yeah, he was episode 291. I can't wait to show you what I want to do with the data. I actually could probably use a little bit of your help, because I want to see how these shows are interconnecting, and it's already amazing to see the different shows and the different people. And
it would really be an interesting sort of what we refer to as content analysis, to see how the answers to some of your similar questions have looked and map out over time here. But an interesting, it's like a word cloud.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
If you go to everydamndayshow.com, you will see that word cloud for the first 75 of the episodes. And it's amazing what's popping out already. But it's hard to prick the right words, right? That's the statistical real problem. The numbers are easy. It's how do you stratify the data or label the categories, I guess. So,
it's always.
I love talking to you. You teach me every single time. You give me affirmation. You make me feel as if I'm heading in an appropriate direction. I don't know if it's the right one, but it's the direction I'm going in. And I appreciate that very much, John. And a great guest, of course.
Well, I appreciate your friendship, Jerry, and I'm looking forward to the road ahead. I think it's going to be kind of fun.
It is going to be fun. What would you like to take us out with?
Well, I'd like to sing a song. I'm like, I'd love to jam you one, right? It'd be great. But no, I don't. I really don't have anything. I think that you've heard it all. Things that I have, I don't have anything. Just go out and be nice to somebody.
Well, that's the thing I was going to point out, is that's one thing we can say to everybody, is just be a little bit more kinder. Even the person you're scared of, even the person you're mad at, even the person that you might even hate. Try to be a little bit kind, because that hate is swallowing poison and expecting the other person to die. It's doing more harm to you than them. So be kind. That'll fill you with a happiness. Thank you, John. Stick with me for 1 second. Good to see you. Thank you, everyone. Love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow.